Hey guys. So, what Spirit wanted to talk about today was why we come in here. What is the purpose for us coming in here? And it led me to Dolores Cannon. Shocker. I love Dolores Cannon. So, I always like to go back and see different places I've highlighted through me reading her books. And so this morning I was like, let me skim through and see what I pop up on today. And here's the first highlighted passage, and this is Convoluted Universe Book 2 by Dolores Cannon. And she's talking about how we incarnate in order to expand and grow, right? So her client was speaking, and then Dolores was letting her know that the best way for a murderer to repay for his crime is, quote unquote, the soft way through love. For instance, the person who was the murderer would be put in a position where they would have to take care of the victim. So maybe in the next life, they might have to devote their entire life to taking care of that person, a dependent parent, a handicapped child, etc. They would not be allowed to have a life of their own. This is a much wiser way to repay than an eye for an eye. So it's interesting how the universe comes in and really works out how we're going to repay karma from previous lifetimes with different soul ties, etc. And there's different ways of doing that. You know, a lot of people want to say like if something bad happens to somebody who doesn't deserve it, like maybe like a child gets cancer or something like that, there still is this deeper purpose that on a human surface level, they can't quite comprehend, that maybe this child experienced whatever in a past life and now is coming in to repay that karmic debt through getting cancer. And how could we on a human level really understand that? But it's so important that on an individual level, in our ascension and our expansion process, that we do understand that this is part of the reason that we come in here is to work off our karma and expand and raise our vibrational frequency. And that can look so many different ways. And our ego wants to judge it. Our ego wants to label it something that maybe it's not, because it doesn't fully understand why we came to be here. Because in this world, we don't normalize reincarnation in our schools, do we? We don't tell the truth to people. So then the people who are telling the truth, we seem like the crazy ones. But whatever. It's all good. We came here to expand and shine our lights until people have no choice but to accept it. And if they don't, they can just die, reincarnate, and come back and try to learn that lesson in a different way. So I don't know about you guys, but for me, I kind of want to learn them all right now. Get this shit going so I can expand and be in higher frequencies as my default state. Because let's be honest, we want to be happy, guys. Come on. All right, here's another portion of that. I have found in my work that there are more souls waiting in line for handicapped bodies than normal ones. This is easy to understand from the spirit point of view. The plan for reincarnating on Earth is to repay as much karma in one lifetime as possible, to avoid having to return again and again. More karma can be repaid through a handicapped body. The soul is learning great lessons, and also the caretaker or the parents. And these people have agreed before coming into this lifetime that they will take care of the individual and help them as much as possible. Everything in life is about lessons, although some are more difficult than others. Also, what lessons are being learned by everyone who sees the handicapped person? How does the observer react? And that is such an important question. Like, different people who come into the space of this person who chose to be handicapped, they are having a learning experience through what? Being their caretaker, even being like maybe is a household where one of the siblings is handicapped and one of them isn't, but being the sibling of the handicapped person you would acquire different lessons from that. So it's pretty simple. I also I highlighted some stuff that is not related to that I'll talk about at the end, just because, you know, I like to dive deep. I like to go there. I like to talk about things. All right, here's another section. Oh, this is about Isis. So maybe I'll leave that. Okay, I'll leave that for next time. Let me put a little bookmarker in there. All right, so point Spirit is trying to make is to recognize why you're here. And once you recognize why you're here, you can consciously move about in your environment in a more conscious way, in a more intentional way, in a way that says, I've identified this karma. It's much easier to identify it within this lifetime because our memory is more fresh, right? But you can also retrieve these past life memories. We've talked about this, guys. You can regress yourself. You can go get a hypnotherapist that you trust and have them regress you so you can learn about all this karma you might have acquired in your past life, and then make those, I don't know if it's like there's different ways that you can clear karma. So it's more so, it's not mostly about making decisions as it is identifying what that shadow work is and diving into the emotions. The emotions are where the frequency is measured, right? So if we are feeling joyful, love, we'll feel a vibration of expansion. We'll feel higher frequencies that are moving more quickly. But when we get in those low vibrational depressive states, time will move more slowly. That frequency wave will oscillate in a more slow. It'll feel like it takes longer to learn those lessons, because those dips, those highs and peaks are moving much more slowly than in a higher frequency where it feels like time's moving really fast. And it's super expansive feeling. It's exciting. It's all those emotions that come with feeling a higher frequency, really. Expansion, stepping into the highest version of you, tapping into instant intuitive connection. You always are connected and you can always tap in, but it's like you're consciously, regularly tapping in, consciously, regularly tuning in to what is of the highest, what next decision is of the highest good for you and everyone in your environment. And don't forget, sometimes the highest good doesn't look like this huge, crazy, positive, high frequency thing, because sometimes things need to crash and burn to the ground so you can be that phoenix that rises from the ashes. Okay, guys, I'm going to share a little bit from that miscellaneous highlight I had in this book. So it was about the earth shift. And the reason I know that my job is to come talk about healing, but I love talking about the earth shift because it has to do with what we're stepping into, why we're here, healing at this expansive, insane rate, and stepping in and calling ourselves light workers, and really feeling and resonating deeply with this identity of being someone who's a part of this group of other someones that are high vibrational and doing the healing work and here to make a change. And so we have to talk about, without inserting fear, we have to talk about the fact that this world is changing. There's more than likely pole shifts happening right now and happening at a very rapid rate. There's tons of solar energy coming off the sun, specifically right now. Like, it's crazy. I think there's like 4 Earth-facing coronal holes right now. You guys do the math on that. Like, it's wild. There's so much going on right now. So if we're being realistic, and I'll go back to Dolores Cannon and her Conversations with Nostradamus, book 2, she discusses the pole shift. She discusses the water displacement. And she also discusses how Nostradamus predicted that the pole shift and the earth changes were going to happen in 2026. Guys, it's 2025. When I first read those books, 5 years ago, I was like, okay, we got a little time. Okay, guys, it's October. So I want to talk about this stuff, and I want to, on an individual level, also get the ball rolling in terms of how to approach the coming earth changes. Okay, so, and you know what? My ego doesn't even know what those things I'm going to do are, but if I'm connected to my intuition, I don't even have to worry about it, because the universe has my back, and the universe ain't going to leave some information out so me and my kids aren't taken care of, because that's not how it works over here. Our faith is next level. Even if it seems like something's not working out, the universe is going to work it out, and good is going to come from it, because my intentions are in a good space. My heart's in a good space. I walk with integrity. I treat people with consideration and respect. And because of that connection, my frequency will rise to this different level where it allows the universe to work with you in a more effortless way, in a flowing way, because you don't have all this ego and resistance and all these things you're trying to drag along with you, and all these jobs and relationships and family commitments and all this baggage that the matrix tries to tell you have no choice but to carry with you. All that, when you let it go, you have this flow with spirit in the universe. You don't have to worry about anything. Guess what, guys? These shifts are coming and you ain't sweating it. You're not in a space of fear and, oh my God, prepper mode. Go ahead, prep, but you prep with that faith that God's just giving you what you need. The universe is just giving you what you need, so you're able to be prepared. There is no getting caught with your pants down when you have that faith that is the next level. The universe isn't going to leave you hanging. It never did. That was only a belief system. All you had to do was get out of victim mode and step into that sovereign, more powerful version of yourself. And you could stop worrying about what's happening in the world. You could stop worrying about people pleasing and making sure you're doing it the right way according to somebody who don't even know what your path is. All right, back to what I highlighted. One of her clients said, I keep seeing a huge turning, like a wheel, but it's not a wheel. It's like seeing a solar system turn full circle. Dolores says, like cycles? And she's like, yes, some of the indigenous ones were transported back to the earth and they began new civilizations, like starting all over. This is cyclical. That's why I was talking about Jason Brashear's talking about how we live in a simulation. It's very predictable. He's done so much chronology on it. I really respect his work. And so these cycles are coming through. I think it's every 138 years, there's a reset. And so this person who was regressed was talking about the reset. And then Dolores comes back. So she'll do the regression where it's her talking, the client talking, her talking, the client talking. And then she'll have these paragraphs in between where she explains, oh, this is something I've seen in a previous regression. This is something that I've seen somewhere before with one of my past clients. So then she says, one of my clients reported a past life when he and many others were taken off the planet just before a catastrophe and returned afterward to start their new lives. And that is wild. I have read that in so many different places, and I don't know what that looks like. It reminds me of the rapture. We've talked about this in plenty of my past videos before, but it just always comes back full circle. I do not know how that looks, guys. I'm not going to sit here and be arrogant enough to say I know how that looks, but I do know when the pole shift occurs and there's a ton of water displacement, if we're here in a lot of places, it could get very scary. And I honestly believe, and there's a lot of ancient texts, and we take what resonates and leave what doesn't, right? But we also consider the translations and everything like that. But even in the Bible itself, it says the wise man builds his house upon the rock and the foolish man builds his house upon the sand. You don't want to be in these places near coastlines right now when we're having earthquakes, solar weather that causes more earthquakes, tsunamis, all that kind of stuff. The pole shift, which will create insane water displacement. I mean, there'll be complete mountain ranges that are now above the water, and old places, like huge swaths of land that used to be above water, our entire memory of life and history that we have written right now, that will now be below water. And there's going to be a lot of history that's found as water recedes in certain areas and then rises in other areas. Things will be revealed. Things are already being revealed. And that is what the energy of these times are. It's the great revelation of, that's why Revelation, the last book in the Bible, like a lot of this stuff, it all ties together. Like all the religions, they have little nuggets that align. And you'll realize when you start connecting these dots that it makes more sense. It makes more sense that we live in this cyclical simulation, and that right now as a human race, we've gotten to a frequency where it's either do what you got to do to expand, or when the shift happens, you won't be aligned with the frequency of people who stay to rebuild. Because in order to be aligned with that frequency, you got to do the shadow work. Your heart's got to be in the right place. Spirit isn't going to give you a bunch of money to manifest when you just want to go spend it on your ego. Because we have to build new, right? So a lot of people like wonder, like, why haven't I manifest this, that? Like, you really have to be the version of yourself that is going to use whatever that is to the highest of good. And we have to go through these initiations. Like, there's so many initiations. I don't feel like, and I don't know this, but I feel like they don't end. It's infinite expansion. Like, we will always be expanding. There's no way that you could be finished expanding. Like it could never be, right? Because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And we are energy. We're just always vibrating at a certain rate. Even if you kill this physical body, the energy is still there. So it's infinite expansion. And I don't know about you, but like I said before, like I want to expand. So my default energy is something that is high vibrational. So I'm not in this life wishing I wasn't here, right? And I think a lot of us have been in that place where we get into these low lows where we can't really get our brains and our hearts thinking in a logical way because we're so attached to this identity and what happened to us, and we carry that dense emotion inside of our bodies, and then we try to walk out into life and we project that instead of living actually this happy person who we want to be, who is just emanating the most rawest, beautiful, authentic version of who you are. And it's hard to get there when you get stuck in this quicksand of attachment to who your old identity is. You're not that person. You're pretending to be that person. When you can really detach when you're going through a healing space, you're like, dang, like, why am I so upset that this person's not acting the way that I want them to act, or that I'm not in this profession or having my own business yet. And when it really takes digging deep. It really takes going down and deep down into your heart and saying, why am I attached to these things that aren't building me up and expanding me? Identifying what those things are and then doing something about it. And then when you get in those low places, being so easy on yourself, like really taking care of yourself, like even talking to yourself and be like, it's okay. Like it's normal. It's healthy to feel these feelings. It needs to happen so you can release them, so you can choose a different perspective about whatever that trauma is. And once you can continue to bring forward that new, healthier perspective where you're moving forward in a sovereign space, once you, every single time you get into that low space, you can bring that perspective forward. Eventually you rewire your brain to that is the perspective you have on it now. The perspective is, let them do what they do. Let that job be where it's at. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to do what's healthiest for me. And as I learn to take care of myself and allow my own cup to overflow, and I am expanding, that impacts everyone and everything around me. Everything. In the most beautiful way. And once you start seeing the evidence of that, it becomes easier to rewire your brain to, I'm not accepting that old crap anymore because we're moving in this direction, which is so much more fulfilling, so much more high vibrational, and so much more validating and expanding and in the space of where you want to go in order to expand even more. Just always understand the highest version of you is always within reach. It's just a matter of letting go, so you can letting go of that old stuff that you're holding on to, so your hand is free to reach for what is actually going to benefit you in your life. What is actually going to bring higher vibrational feelings and expansive feelings into your heart and into your soul, into every move flowing on your journey. Whew, that's 20 minutes, guys. I love you so much. I love doing this, and I'm so happy that I'm back to being committed to doing it every day, because that's where I was slacking, guys. I was feeling a little victim-y, right? It's easy to do that as a single parent with a bunch of kids, all in extracurriculars, and be working and commit to doing videos every day. Like, it's a lot, but guess what? It's the best thing for me. And I just need to get in that flow. I feel like after 4 or 5 days here, I'm in my flow, and I love being back connected with my community where I'm supposed to be. And I appreciate your guys' patience and hanging in there with me after these last few years where I've been pretty quiet. I really appreciate you guys so much. Also, if you want to help get my algorithm back going, please subscribe, comment if you have any questions or comments that you want, or discussion topics that you'd want to bring to the table. Please leave those in the comments. Consider donating. And also, I have a new channel where I'm reading cards, and that's linked below if you're interested. All right, guys, I love you, and I'll see you on the next one.